ஸ்டார்ட் ஸ்ட்ரீமிங் ஒரு பண்ணணும். அங்கே யூடியூப்லேயும் இது பண்ணணும். இங்கே முடிச்சாச்சா? இங்கே ஸ்டார்ட் ஸ்ட்ரீமிங் போட்டாச்சா? அதுக்கப்புறம் இங்கேயும்
இங்கே போய்ட்டு சொல்கிறாங்க மற்ற கம்பெனி எப்படின்னா
அந்த ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஆக ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டு
ஆமாம்
என்கிட்ட ஸ்க்ரீன் கொடுத்துருவோமா? எடுத்து போட்டு ஒரு இது பண்ணிவிட்டு இதை அழிச்சு விட்டுட்டு எங்கேயா
ரிமூவ் மேலே இருக்குது. ரிமூவ் தானே இருக்குது.
இப்படிலாம் இருந்தால் என்ன பண்ணுறது? விண்டோ கேப்சர். இப்போ நம்ம எதில் போய் இது பண்ணோம்? இதில் போயிட்டு அதுவும் கிடையாது.
க்ரோம் லைவ் ஸ்ட்ரீமிங், யூடியூப், கூகுள் ஸ்ட்ரீம்.
ஓகே
ஓகே.
இப்போ நமக்கு இது பிரச்சனை கிடையாது. ஓ, அது விண்டோக்கு நடுவில் இருக்குது. சாரி, யூடியூப்பில் கரெக்டாக இருக்கான்னு போய் பார்க்கணும். அப்டேட் ஆகுடா தம்பி, படுத்தாதடா.
ஐயோ, அந்த குரூப்பில் வேறு மெசேஜ் பண்ணி 2 நாள் ஆயிடுச்சு.
பிறப்புனாலே பயம் இருக்குது. எத்தனை மணிக்கு அங்கே ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும்?
2:20 வாங்கல. ஐயோ, மெயில் ஐடி கொடுக்குறோன்னு போச்சு, நம்ம கொடுக்கவே இல்லை.
விட்டுருங்க, அந்த அம்மாவே ஏதாவது பண்ணிக்கலாம். இங்கே விண்டோ கேப்சர் வந்துருச்சு. யூடியூப்பில் ஏன் விண்டோ கேப்சர் வர மாட்டேங்குது? விண்டோ ஏன் கேப்சர் ஆகலை? கனெக்ட் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஏன் இந்த கேப் இருக்குன்றது தான் என்னோட கேள்வி.
மேக்ஸிமைஸ் கொடு. இந்த பட்டன் இங்கே மேக்ஸிமைஸ் கொடுத்தாங்க பாரு. இங்கே இந்த மேக்ஸிமைஸ்
அது இல்லைப்பா, இங்கே பாருங்க, இந்த குட்டி ஸ்க்ரீமாக அது லெஃப்ட் சைடில் ஓடிட்டு இருக்கு பாருங்க.
ஃபுல் ஸ்க்ரீன் வராமல்.
அதுக்கு தான் ஏன்னு தெரில. இங்கே ஓபிஎஸ்ல ஏதோ ஒரு தகராறு இருக்குது.
இதுக்குள்ளே தான் ஃபிட் ஆகணும். அந்த மேலே ஒரு வெளியில் ஒரு அவுட்லைன் பார்டர் இருக்குது பாரு, அதுக்குள்ளே ஃபிட் பண்ணணும். மேலே வரைக்கும் கொண்டு வா. இங்கே
ஓகே,
இங்கே கீழே இங்கிட்டு விடு. அப்படியே கீழே கேப் தெரியும் எனக்கு.
ஓகே
ஓகே, டன்.
அது அவ்வளோதான் வருது, விட்டுடலாம்.
இந்த அளவுக்கு ஃபிட்டாக இருக்குல்ல?
ஃபிட்டாக இருக்கலாம். ஓகேவா? இப்போ நம்ம இங்கே ரிஃப்ரெஷ் ஆகுது தம்பி. அப்பப்போ உன் பாடு பெரிய பாடாக இருக்கு எனக்கு. இவன் பாடு பெரிய பாடாக இருக்கு. இந்த ஃபுல் ஸ்க்ரீன் ஆயிடுச்சு.
மேம், ஹலோ மேம். மேம், ஜாயின் பண்ணிடுறேன் மேம். நீங்கள் செக் பண்ணிடுறேன் மேம். நீங்கள் அந்த மெயில் ஐடி ஏதோ கூப்பிட்றீங்க மேம். ஓகே மேம். ஓகே மேம், தேங்க்ஸ் மேம். மேம், நிர்மலா மேம். நிர்மலா மேம், குரூப்பில் ஜாயின் பண்ண சொல்கிறாங்க. மீட்டில் செக் பண்ணிக்கலான்னு. நான் போய் லேப்டாப் தூக்கிட்டு வரேன். நான் இங்கேயே உட்காந்துக்கிறேன். நீ சேர்.
நான் ஸ்டாப் ரெக்கார்டிங் கொடுத்து வச்சுருக்கேன். எப்போ ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணுமோ ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடுவேன். ஓகேவா? இப்போ நான் முதல்ல என்ன பண்ணணும்னா, ஏதோ ஒன்றுதுக்கான இங்கே வந்து நீங்கள் போய் உங்கள் லேப்டாப் எடுத்துகிட்டு வாங்க, நான் அதுக்குள்ளே சொல்லிடுறேன்.
எனக்கு அந்த லிங்க் வேணும், யூடியூப் லிங்க்.
கரெக்ட். அதுக்கு தான் இது பண்ணேன். அதுக்கு தான் வாட்ஸ்அப் ஓப்பன் பண்ணுறதுக்கு வந்தேன். அதுக்கு மினிமைஸ் பண்ணேன். ரைட்டு.
the fun. அப்படியே நான் குரூப்லேயே போடுறேன்.
இருங்க, முதல்ல நீங்கள் லைவ் ஸ்ட்ரீமிங் ஆரம்பிச்சுட்டு நான் செக் அவுட் பண்ணிட்டு நான் போகிறேன்.
ஓப்பனிங் ஃப்ரம் எம்மி சர்க்குலர் பின்னா
அதை அசைஞ்சிங்கன்னா மொத்தமாக சொல்லி பிடிச்சிடும். இந்தாங்க யூஆர் அண்ட் இடியட் அதோட இது பாஸ்போர்ட் சரியா?
இது
வைஃபை ஹாட்ஸ்பாட் வேணும்ல?
ஆமாம் சொன்னேன். நல்லா எழுந்திரிச்சுக்கா.
என்ன வேணும் உங்களுக்கு? ஹாட்ஸ்பாட் தானே வேணும்.
ஹிந்துஸோட தானே ஹாட்ஸ்பாட்டு.
ஆமாம்
அதோட இங்கே
தேடுறேன் காணும். ஓப்பன் லிங்க் கொடுக்குறோம். ஓப்பன் லிங்க் ஆக மாட்டேங்குது. என்ன பண்ணுறது? லிங்க் வேணும்ல பஸ், கொஞ்சம் வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க பஸ். வெஸ்டர்ன் குரூப் அட்ரஸ் இன்வேலிடுன்னு வருதான். இதுக்கு தான் நாங்கள் பாஸ் பண்ண மாட்டேன்னு.
மேம் இல்லை மேம், அந்த குரூப்க்கெல்லாம் மேம் மெசேஜ் அனுப்பிச்சிடுறாங்க இல்லை நான் போடுறதா மேம்? ஆமாம் நான் பண்ணல.
ஹாட்ஸ்பாட்டை காணும் தேடிட்டு இருக்கேன். வேணுமா ஹாட்ஸ்பாட்? இந்தாங்க ஹாட்ஸ்பாட் ஆன் பண்ணிட்டேன். இல்லை டெஸ்க்டாப் ஹாட்ஸ்பாட் இதோட பாஸ்வேர்டு.
மேம் சொல். மெயில் மீ மேம். ஓகே மேம், மேம் செக் இட் மேம். செக் பண்ணி அவங்க காணி. ஓகே மேம். ஓகே மேம். ஓகே மேம்.
என்னப்பா? இது ஃபுல் ஸ்க்ரீன் ஆகிடுச்சு. இது பிரச்சனை கிடையாது. ஓபிஎஸும் பிரச்சனை கிடையாது. இப்போ நான் வந்து யூடியூப் ஸ்ட்ரீமிங் அவ்வளோ கழுதையும் இல்லையா?
எனக்கு நேற்று ஜாயின் பண்ணுவேன். எடு
ஸ்கெட்சர் செட் பண்ணு.
என்ன ஹாட்ஸ்பாட்டு
இங்கே இருக்கிறது பாரு. இன் ரைட் கார்னர் இங்கே இருக்க ஷேர். ஓகே ஷேர். வாட்ஸ்அப் ஓப்பன் வித் ஆப். எஸ்
மேம் எனக்கு எந்த இது மெயில் ஐடி வரலையே மேம் வாட்ஸ்அப்பில். ஆ அது ஒரே நிமிஷம் இருங்க மேம். ஐயோ என்ன அப்டேட்டே ஆகல.
54 வருது.
ஓகே மேம். ஓகே மேம். ஓகே மேம். சாரி மேம். ஓகே மேம். ஓகே ஓகே மேம். சொல்லுங்கள். ஓகே மேம். பிகே மது எம்ஏ டிஹெச்யூ மேம். அட் ஸ்பெல் இட் மேம். விஜய்
ஆன்ல தான்டா இருக்கு.
COLE. ஓகே மேம். டாட். ஓகே மேம். ஐ வில் மெயில் இட் மேம். ஓகே மேம்.
ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஆயிடுச்சு.
மாதவன் NEW
சக்சீட் ஆயிட்டேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு என்னடா
ஜென். ஓகே மேம். @co.in மேம்.
பாஸ் நீங்கள் பேசுகிறதெல்லாம்
ஓகே
கேட்குது
மேம், ஓகே மேம், ஓகே மேம், தேங்க்ஸ் மேம்.
நம்ம கொஞ்சம் திருவாயை மூடிட்டு இருக்கணும், ஏன்னா நீங்கள் பேசுகிறது இங்கே கேட்குது. யூடியூப் ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஆயிடுச்சு. யூடியூப் லிங்க் வேணுமா?
ஆமாம், யூடியூப் லிங்க் வேணும். ஆமாம் சொல்லாதையும்.
டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் குரூப்பில் அனுப்பிவிட்டா?
ஆமாம்.
இப்போ நான் அந்த கிளாஸ்க்கு போகலாமா?
நீ போக வேணாம், இங்கே இது பின்ன போடு.
நான் போனப்போ அந்த பிள்ளை சட்டம் போட்டுட்டு இருந்தேன்னா
இப்போ பின் என்னன்னு சொல்லுடி.
பின்னு இப்போ தான் எழுதி கொடுத்தையா. டெஸ்க்டாப் ஹாட்ஸ்பாட். பழைய லேப்டாப் புது லேப்டாப்மா இது. இதோட பாஸ்வேர்ட் தான் தரும். டெஸ்க்டாப் அந்த 54 என்னோடது.
அதான் போடுறேன் மேம்.
நான் யூடியூப்ல
மேம் இப்போ தான் மேம் சீஃப் மெயில் ஐடியே கொடுக்குறாங்க அவங்க. காலையிலே நான் கேட்டு கொடுக்குறேன். ஒரே நிமிஷம் இருங்க.
டி அங்கே இருக்க டிஎஸ்கே கொண்டாடா. ஸ்பெல்லிங் தெரியாதுன்னு.
ஏய் ஒரு நிமிஷம் இந்த மெயில் எடு. கனெக்டே அது தொலைய மாட்டேங்குது. டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் மெயில் ஐடி எடு.
என்ன வேணும்?
உங்களோட கொடுத்தாங்க, இந்த ஆட் பண்ணணும்.
அப்போ அதுக்கு முந்தினதாடா. ஒரு நிமிஷம் இருங்க. இப்போ உங்கள் சிஸ்டமில் நெட் வேணாலும் சரி, என் சிஸ்டமில் நெட் வேணாலும் சரி, கொஞ்சம் இப்போதைக்கு இது பண்ணால் தான் முடியும். கொஞ்சம் சைலண்ட்டாக இருங்க. டெஸ்க்டாப் 5P45 கரெக்டு தான்டா.
நான் போய் அதையும் அனுப்பிச்சிட்டேன்.
அதுக்கு மேலே போக மாட்டேங்குது. இங்கே அதுக்குள்ளே கொடுத்தாங்க.
வேறு டெஸ்க்டாப் ஹாட்ஸ்பாட் தான். இப்போ என்ன இது பாஸ்வேர்ட் மாற்றணுமா? ஆக்சுவலி நீங்கள் கீழே ஆப்ஷன் வரும், ஏன் வரல? ஏய் முதல்ல டெஸ்க்டாப் ஹாட்ஸ்பாட்டே ஆன் ஆகல. எந்த டிவைஸும் கனெக்ட் ஆகல.
அதுக்கு மேலே தாண்ட மாட்டேங்குது.
ஆமாடா, இவங்களுக்கும் தாண்ட மாட்டேங்கியே. சரி விடுங்க. என்ன பாஸ்வேர்டு வைக்கிறது? அப்பெல்லாம் வைக்க முடியாது. அஃபிஷியல் யூஸ் பாரு. அதுக்கும் நீங்கள் சொல்லுவீங்க இத்தனை இதில் தான் வரும்ட்டு. ஆமாம், அதுக்கும் வரல. அஃபிஷியல் மட்டும் போட்டுட்டா அஃபிஷியல் இதாகுது.
அது அங்கே நோட்டான தப்பாக இருந்தாலும்
ஏன்டா உனக்கு கனெக்ட் ஆயிடுச்சாடா?
சுற்றிட்டு security key is not correct, please try.
ஆமாம், இவங்களுக்கு அப்படி தான் வருது. ஆனால் ஏதோ ஒன்று கனெக்ட் ஆகிட்டு.
எனக்கு கனெக்ட் ஆகிடுச்சு.
இவங்களுக்கும் கனெக்ட் ஆகிட்டு. அட் லாஸ்ட். ஓகே, உங்கள் 2 பேர் சரவலையும் முடிச்சிட்டேன். மேம் யூடியூப் ஆன் பண்ணி விட்டீங்களா? ஐ மீன் கூகுள் மீட் ஆன் பண்ணி விட்டீங்களா? ஹாட்ஸ்பாட் ஆன் பண்ணிட்டேன். கூகுள் மீட் ஆன் பண்ணிட்டா? ஏன்
ஆட் ஏபி பாய் எம்சின்னு போட சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. அப்புறம் ஏபி பாய் எம்சின்னு போடுங்க. ஏபின்னு
அசிஸ்டன்ட் ப்ரொஃபஸர்.
ஏபின்னு அவங்க டைப் பண்ணி போடுங்க.
அவங்களோட டெசிக்னேஷன் ஆட் பண்ண சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. மேம் இந்த சிஸ்டம் குறைஞ்சது 15 மினிட்ஸ்க்கு முன்னாடி ஆன் ஆகி அது ஒரு டியூனிங்க்கு வந்தால் தான் வேலை பார்ப்போம். சரி, ஏன் இதுலேயும் ஆன் பண்ணி விட்டுடலாமோ? ஆமாம், ஃபீட்பேக் லிங்க் எங்கே வச்சுருக்கேன் நான்? நான் இது ரொம்ப கேள்வி கேட்குதுன்ட்டேன். ஜிமெயிலுக்குள்ளே போகிறதுக்கு அவன் மாடல் ரோபோட்டான்னு கேட்குது. என்ன பண்ணுறது? அசிஸ்டன்ட் ப்ரொஃபஸர். அசிஸ்டன்ஸ் இல்லை, அசிஸ்டன்ட்டு.
டிஏஎன்டி தானே? டிஏஎன்டி.
அதுக்கு முக்கியம் இல்லை. இப்போ நம்ம 2:30க்கு ப்ரோக்ராம், இன்னும் நாங்கள் லாகின் பண்ணாமல் இருக்கோம். சரி, இந்த பஞ்சாயத்து முடிச்சுட்டு பண்ண முடியும்.
ஓகேவா?
ஏபின்னு போட்டால் போதுமே. ஏபிஸ் தான் செஞ்சு போட்டுருக்கீங்க. அந்த மாதிரி ஏபியும் கேப்டல் போடும்.
குழப்படி. இப்போ நம்ம எங்கே போனோம்?
இங்கே என் மெயில் இதுக்கோ
உங்கள் வீட்டில் இல்லை, அங்கே கரெக்டாக தான் இருக்கு. மேம், நம்ம ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் யூடியூப்பில் ஜாயின் பண்ண சொல்லுங்கள் மேம். மேம் ஒரு 10 நிமிஷம் கழிச்சு கூட ஜாயின் பண்ணி சொல்லுங்கள் மேம். வீட்டில் கடைசியில் ஒரு 10 நிமிஷம் கழிச்சு ஜாயின் பண்ணாங்க என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? இவருக்கு வெளியே போக சொல்லிடலாமா? ஓகே மேம், சரி ஜாயின் பண்ணுங்க. ஜாயின் ஆகும். மியூட் போட்டுருங்க. News controls. Share the screen. Let everyone off. Send chat messages. Okay. Turn on your microphone. இப்போதைக்கு கவுண்ட் பண்ண வேண்டாம், தேவைப்படுற நேரம் ஆன் பண்ணிட்டுக்கலாம். ஓகேவா?
நீ எதில் மாற்றினியாட்டா?
இதுலப்பா என்னப்பா கேட்குறீங்க?
டூன் ஆன் தி மைக்ரோஃபோன்.
அவங்க வீடியோ கூட அவங்க நானே பார்த்து வீடியோ வேணால் பார்த்து வந்துட்டு போகிறாங்க. அவங்க மைக்ரோஃபோன் ஆஃப் பண்ணி தான் வைக்கணும். இப்போ அவ்வளோதான், நம்ம சாதிச்சுவாங்க. சரி, நீங்கள் பேசுகிறதும் சேர்த்து ரெக்கார்ட் ஆகும். அதனால் தயவுசெய்து பேசுவாங்க. ரைட்? அந்த ரெக்கார்டிங் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணல. ஓகேவா? எத்தனை பார்ட்டிசிபெண்ட்ஸ் இருக்காங்க? 27 பேர் இருக்காங்க. நீங்கள் உங்கள் எடுத்து போங்க.
நம்ம தண்ணி அடிச்சுட்டு ஹெட்செட் எடுத்துகிட்டு வந்துடுறேன்.
ஓகே. You can't join one. இல்லை, வரதண்ணா.
ஓகே மேம் ஆன் பண்ணி விட்டுறேன் மேம். ஓகே மேம் 1 செகண்ட் மேம். ஏய் மைக்ரோஃபோன் ஆன் பண்ணி விட்டுறேன். ஆன் பண்ணி விட்டுரு.
அவங்க எல்லாரும் மறுபடியும் இது பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பாங்க.
ரொம்ப கம்மி போங்க.
ஏய் இருங்கப்பா, யார் யாருக்கெல்லாம் நின்னுங்க. யார் மேம் இருங்க மேம், யார் யாருக்கெல்லாம் அட்மின் ரைட்ஸ் கொடுக்கணுமோ கொடுத்துட்றேன் மேம். ஹெச்ஓடி மேம் தானே, அவங்க என்ன ஐடியில் இருக்காங்க
தெரியாது.
மீட்டிங் இவங்க வந்து ஹோஸ்ட்டு, கோ ஹோஸ்ட்டு, அவங்களுக்கு ஹோஸ்ட் இது பண்ணிட்டேன். ஓகேவா,
எனக்கும் எனேபிள் பண்ணணும்.
ஓகே. உங்களுக்கு நீங்கள் ஆல்ரெடி நீங்கள் எம்சிஏ இதுக்கு தான் இருக்கீங்க
மேம் இதை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோங்க மேம்.
மேம் அவங்க பேசுகிறது ஆடிபிளாக இருக்குது.
ஆ ஓகே ஓகே மேம்.
மேம் சீஃப் கெஸ்ட் பேர் என்ன மேம்?
மாதவன் பேர்லயே இருக்காரு மேம். மாதவன் பேர்லயே இருக்காரு.
மாதவன் பிகே கரெக்டா மேம்? மேம் நிர்மலா மேம் உங்களுக்கு
Sir, as of now 31 participants are in. Shall we start?
I'm okay, or we can wait a couple of minutes. I'm okay with anything.
Fine, sir. Okay. We'll just another couple of minutes. Just
Yeah.
அப்போ வந்து இந்த இடத்துல வந்து இதை கிளிக் பண்ணி பாட்டி இது ஃபுல்லாக மைக்ரோஃபோன் ஆன் சொல்லுங்கள். கண்ட்ரோல் போயிட்டு இந்த இடத்துல டேர்ன் ஆன் மைக்ரோஃபோன். ஓகேவா?
இது இப்போ எனக்கு வேணும். இப்போ வந்து இது எனக்கு கண்டிப்பாக அவங்க இருக்காங்க.
நிர்மலா மேம் ஆன் பண்ணிட்டேன், ஹெச்ஓடி மேம் ஆன் பண்ணிட்டேன். நீங்கள் தான் இங்கே இருக்கவே இருக்கீங்க. நீங்கள் தான் சீஃப் ஹோஸ்டே. உங்கள் பேரில் இல்லை, எம்சிஏக்குள்ளே தான் நீங்கள் இருக்கீங்க. பேசாதம்மா, ரெக்கார்ட் ஆகுது. என்னம்மா வேணும்? என்னம்மா வேணும்?
அதை எடுக்கணும். எப்படி ரன் பண்ணி சொல்லி
இப்போதைக்கு நம்ம டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டில் ப்ரோக்ராம் கண்டக்ட் பண்ணுறோம், அதனால் இப்போதைக்கு விட்டுரும்.
நாளைக்கு தான் பேசுகிறது ரன் எப்படின்னு தெரியும். எல்லாத்தையும் இன்ஸ்டால் பண்ணி எல்லாத்தையும் செய்யணும்.
சரி, இப்போ நான் வரேன், கிளாஸ்க்கு வரேன். இப்போ நான் கிளாஸ்க்கு வரேன்டா, கிளாஸ்க்கு வரேன். மேம் ரெக்கார்டிங் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடட்டா?
Are you online?
Ma'am, she's asking you. Shall we start?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is not about ideas, it is about making ideas happen. Good noon to one and all joined here for this virtual meet. I welcome all for the webinar on research writing, plagiarism, misconceptions and authorship issues conducted by Department of Computer Applications, Hindustan College of Engineering and Technology on 26/8/2022. To start with, I request our beloved head of the department, Dr. A. Jayasudha, to welcome the gathering. Sudha?
Am I audible?
Yes, Sudha. Yeah, you can start.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good afternoon. My wishes to one and all who are virtually connected here. I'm pleased to welcome you to the webinar on research writing, plagiarism misconceptions and authorship issues on behalf of Hindustan College of Engineering Technology, Coimbatore. I thank our Hindustan management, CEO and principal for providing me this opportunity to host this event. The most popular method for any researcher to have their work known to the global academic community is to get either a research article, a paper, a case study, or a survey paper published in a well-known and widely recognized journal or publication of global repute. We as content creators, researchers and scholars must understand the concept of plagiarism too. Preventing a problem is often better than solving it. And there are few principles that we need to be followed for ethical authorship. Here we have with us our speaker of the day, Dr. P.K. Madhavan, publisher, Newgen Vijay Nicole, Chennai. Welcome you, sir. Thanks for accepting our invitation and joining us online. Hope I'm audible to every one of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I welcome all staff members, research scholars of Hindustan Engineering College, Coimbatore, as well as staff members from other colleges in and around Coimbatore. Understanding the dire need of the hour, I appreciate the efforts of my department staff members to host this event at a very short notice. Hope this afternoon would give you all an in-depth insight into all dimensions of publications. Kindly permit me a few more seconds to introduce our speaker. Dr. P.K. Madhavan, a publisher and a man activities that includes author sourcing, content development, and content. He is well versed in copy editing, working on marketing collateral blurbs and cover designs. He has hands-on experience of content development, authoring, sales, and promotion. And he is author of several books, such as Pioneers of Outsourced Content Development Activities, and he is good, a renowned author of various books. Since March 1997 till December 2004, he had been consultant publisher and head of Vikas Publishing House, Chennai. Since 1988 January till December 1997, he was publishing manager, Tata McGraw Publishing, New Delhi. He had been as publishing manager, higher education. From 1993 to 1997, he had been into hardcore sales of books, acquisitions, editing. And he has authored books like Handbook for Soft Skills, prescribed in Thiruvalluvar University. And over 40,000 copies has been sold. He has good careers in publishing. He has few research publications of his own. To cite a few, Copyright Protection and Role of Publishers, Perceptions of Indian Authors, and International Journals of Recent Technology and Engineering. He has also published papers related to author-publisher relationship in the digital era, disintermediation on proliferation of self-publishing in an international journal. He has delivered talk as invited speakers on digital publishing innovative practices at Missy Institute of Management, Chennai. He has published article on digital publishing in India, innovative business practices and conference proceedings. With a note about our speaker, I will hand over the session to Dr. Madhavan to make us exposed to the publication nuances. Once again, I welcome you all for this session. The session is open to you, sir. We are all waiting to listen to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, one and all. It's a pleasure and privilege to be addressing you on this topic, which I call as scholarly publishing, an insight into publishing research articles, theses, and monographs. As the topic suggests, I would be covering research writing, plagiarism, and also into um, how to write better, or what is the planning, the schedule, the method required to write and get accepted in national or international publications. I'll present my screen now. Are you able to see the screen?
Sir,
Hello?
the screen is visible, sir.
Yeah, the screen is
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So how this presentation is going to be is, I'm going to tell you about the ecosystem, about books, because books are also important, but there'll be very minimal coverage on books, on journals per se, on important technical issues, which include peer review, the process of peer review, copyright, publishing ethics and plagiarism. And the last slides would talk about article preparation and submission, which includes planning, content, preparation, structure and method, ground rules, and attention to detail. So that's how this presentation is structured. I guess all questions will be towards the end, so that this presentation can go on uninterrupted. But I am okay with anyone asking me questions in between. Because it'll be difficult to show the screen back again. So when I present something, if anybody has a question, I'm willing to answer it. Okay. Scholarly communication is both formal and informal. The formal aspect of scholarly communication is journals and books. The informal aspects are conference and preprints. I'm sure most of us thought that conference proceedings, publishing conference proceedings, and having preprints actually constitutes formal publication. But what the authorities recognize as formal publication is only journals and books. The scholarly publishing market, or what is there out there, includes books, journals, medical information and solutions, scientific and technical information and solutions market, and online services and platforms. Being in the computing space, all of you would have encountered publishing platforms which offer a lot of online resources today. More on it as we go along. Now, who are the stakeholders we are dealing with? So that includes authors or researchers. So I guess all of us in the teaching profession, we are either authors or researchers. And the other stakeholders are publishers, research organizations, libraries, learned societies. Learned Society would be an Indian Institute of Statistical Science, or TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. These are all learned societies. Funding organizations, editors, peer reviewers, educational institutions, and the society or community at large. So these are our stakeholders. Now, as I told you, we'll discuss very briefly about books. Books are long-form publication as opposed to an article which is about less than 10 pages. The UNESCO definition of a book is something cover to cover is 48 pages. But the sort of book that I'm talking about is upwards of 160 pages. It's based on in-depth academic research. And so here we are talking of the scholarly market. We're not talking of textbooks or competitive exam books or fiction or non-fiction. We're not talking of any of those books. We're talking purely of scholarly, academic, professional reference books. So this is based on in-depth academic research. The book will have an original contribution in the field. and it will be peer reviewed. So the types of books that are featured or are classified under this long form publication, in-depth academic research, original contribution, and peer reviewed are monographs, thesis, edited collections, and contribution to book chapters. Very briefly on the book publishing process, because this is equally going to be important to understand the journal publishing process as well. So the author submits to the publishing firm where the editor is in charge. One of the first things that editors do before even processing a manuscript, before wasting any more time, is do a plagiarism check. And after this, they do an in-house research into the physical aspects of the book, whether the structure required for a research publication in thesis or monograph form is suitable, and only after that they go in for a peer review. A peer reviewer is an expert on the subject, or the word peer means equal. So somebody who is equal to the author in that field of study. And once the peer reviewer agrees or accepts the publication, or if the process where the peer reviewer makes suggestions and the author accepts them, the publisher also accepts them, and the author is happy with the sort of suggestions made, then the manuscript is taken up for publication and a memorandum of agreement is signed with the author. It's also important to know that till this stage there is no language editing done. So all this is the structure of how a book is processed is a decision has to be taken whether the book has to be published or not. So that process is done only after the memorandum of agreement is signed. It is only after the MOA is signed that copy editing, which is essentially language editing, it happens, and after that the book goes for production and further marketing. So, what are journals? A journal is both the container and content, just like a book is also the container and content. And its definition is it's a periodical written by the investigator or researcher and peer reviewed. It has an historical sustainability of the 350 years. And recently, 90% of the journals in the world today are electronic and they're digital. And so the new role of navigation of content becomes important. So who are the participants of the journal format? Researchers as authors. The journal publisher is the entrepreneur or the innovator. He also is the person who finances the entire operation. The journal editor invariably is an expert on the subject, and as most journals go, they are always in very specialized fields. So the journal editor is an expert in the field. The peer reviewer guides the editor and the author in having a publication which is up to standard, and so he is called the quality pilot. Beyond this, you have subscription agents, library consortium, and again the researchers as the reading community. Now, till about early 2000, we didn't have open access. We only had toll access, which is purely commercial publishing. And you had most of the leading publications, leading journals from learned societies. So that was based on subscription. So commercial publishing is based on subscription. It could be individual or institution. It could be based on a site license. In terms of accessibility, then it could be a content bundling where many articles of the same type are bundled together. So that's called the big deal. It could be pay-per-view. A lot of articles today are, a lot of individual articles are bought today. Nobody subscribes to the entire journal as such. If a researcher is working on a particular topic, he would access the journal's the topic of interest to him. And then you have online aggregators and subscription agents who sell to various libraries and other research organizations. Some journals are based on advertising revenue. There is also the library consortia and library system vendors. These are the essential journal publishing models. Now, coming to open access, most of the open access journals are free to readers. There is an author publishing charge, it's called APC, or there are institutional sponsors for the journal or for the individual article, and there is corporate research and institutional funding. So I have the statistics as of 2014 and 2016, and in the last few years we've had COVID, so a lot of journals have not operated as they should have. So what we this is from the STM report. So there are 28,100 learned journals and 14,000 open access journals. The learned journals, by learned journals, what it means is peer-reviewed, traditional method of publishing journals. They are 28,100. They process up to 2.5 million articles. And open access journals, they started, they became popular, say towards after 2010, and there are 40,000 articles. Some of them are filtered, some of them are not filtered. Now, who are the, see, it's important for every researcher to know that the number of journal publishers in the world, or the established journal publishers, are far and few. The big names are Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, Wolters Kluwer, Sage, Macmillan, OUP, Cambridge and Emerald. These are the major publishers. 7,000 journals are published by these publishers only. Half of all journals are owned or controlled by learned societies. So any leading organization, leading institute, they control half of the journals in the world as of now. The biggest revenue is from English language STM journals, where it is estimated that USA has 52% share of the journals, Europe has 32%, Asia has 12%, and the rest is 4%. 85 to 90% of all journals are migrated to digital. To throw some more light on open access journal publishing, we have the genesis was two conventions. One was the Budapest Convention and the Bethesda Convention. It started off with this movement. Of course, before this, there was Creative Commons and there was free copyright left, and many movements which came in during the 90s. The genesis, of course, is that knowledge is free, and we should not charge readers for one school of thought felt that knowledge is free and should not be charged. So based on this, the open access journal publishing came into being. Also alongside the digital publishing introduced flipped business models. For instance, I'll give you an example. Wikipedia came in 100 years later than Encyclopedia Britannica. And EB had more than 100 Nobel laureates as editors, contributors, whereas Wikipedia could be, the contribution could be from your next door neighbor or from anybody. An analysis was done on how accurate Wikipedia was and how accurate, of course, people could be biased, but some people felt EB was slightly better, but only slightly better. Wikipedia's material was still considered good, and Wikipedia's model was based on donor contributions from corporate sponsorships and from individuals. It was not a commercial model. Even I have contributed money to Wikipedia, $50, $100, things like that. EB, of course, is a commercial publishing model. So the flipped business models also paved way for open access journal publishing. So what are the types of open access? There's a full open access where, as the name suggests, there is no fee, there is no thing. It's a gold open access thing. The only difference is the peer reviewing process will still be done. Delayed open access is where the commercial model holds out for, let us say, 6 months. For instance, if we were to make a movie, you would have seen movie makers, maybe for a month they will run it on normal theaters and then go into the OTT platform. So similar to that, there is a delayed access, delayed open access, which is given to libraries or to subscribers. There is also where there is no peer review done. It's all open. The market dictates whether the journal article is good or not. The open access business models are, this is the most widespread, where authors are charged for article processing charge is levied on authors. There are also institutions, maybe your college or maybe a university can sponsor. If the article is good, they can sponsor it. There is a library partnership subsidy and a freemium. It's a combination of free and premium. So the international author processing charges or article processing charges vary from $600 to $5,000. So the types of OA journals. See, what has happened is, it is not as if open access is different and commercial or toll access publishing is different. Almost every commercial publisher has now an open access wing also. So what they do, they rank the articles received by them and say, okay, this will go into my A grade journal. This will go into my B grade. This will go into my C grade. They rank, and so ultimately the money and every aspect of the business still is retained by them. So the types of open access journals are, there is author processing charge plus an objective peer review. An objective peer review is where they look at the structure of the article and say, okay, the language is good, the structure is good. They don't go into the content. But the second model, there is a traditional peer review as well. So the traditional peer review is where they look at the content. And cascade, in case of both, a cascade is when one large publishing company or large learned journal, takes one article based on merit, the other they shift it to, they cascade it down the line to their lesser journals. There are also flipped. See, the concept of open access itself is supposed to be free and thing. Here in the flipped thing, they ask for subscription, and subscription is paid by. So it's no more purely open access. But some libraries and some publishers are willing to. Some publishers are willing to adopt this model where there's a subscription. There is also hybrid, where there is an author processing charge is also levied plus a subscription model. So this is the entire open access publishing. Now I'm moving on to important technical issues. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Very
Yeah.
much.
Okay. Sometimes I feel I'm just talking to myself. Okay, so these are the important technical issues on peer review. So prior to publication, peer review is a process of scrutiny of the author's manuscript by experts in the field. The intended benefits are it improves the quality of the published papers, it acts as a filter and routes better articles to better journals. It acts as a seal of approval. It authenticates content or leads to establishing credibility of content. So this model is primarily a gatekeeping model where there is a gatekeeper. So if you write the research article, the publisher's gatekeeping role decides whether your article is of quality or not. So the types of peer review are, there is a single blind review, so which means there's only one reviewer, and the author does not know who the blind review is, where the author does not know who the reviewer is, the reviewer does not know who the author is. The double blind, single blind review is where the reviewer knows who the author is, the author does not know who the reviewer is. A double blind review is author and publisher is kept hidden from each other. An open peer review is where the author and the publisher are, it's open who the author is and who the reviewer is. And cascade peer review again is jumping from one journal to another, where the editor of the leading journal will say, okay, this can go into the second strong or the third strong. There is also a light or a peer review where they just look at the content and don't make too many suggestions because they're keen to publish the article. So that process is where they look at whether the structure of the article is maintained properly. Now, most from talking to journal editors and to leading researchers, and to editors, I understand that technical soundness and correctness of content is more important to reviewers rather than the impact or importance of the subject. So if your article in a particular, even the reviewer will not know whether your article is going to make an impact, it's going to be the next big discovery. They're not going to know that. What the peer reviewer is looking at is technical soundness of the article that you've submitted. So basically, it goes from, the article is submitted to the publisher, it goes to the editor-in-chief and the editorial board. So the general process, as I've understood, working with journals as well as talking to editors, is there is a housekeeping check. So whether all the elements or the structure of an article is maintained and kept, you will be surprised to know that a large number of articles are rejected because they don't even maintain the first basic level of, they do not even qualify the housekeeping check. Then there is a plagiarism check. There is peer review. The editor assesses the reviews. So just because the reviewer has cast a lot of aspersions on the article, the editor can still make a call and say, he or she can tell the author that I want this corrected, this if you leave it also, it's fine. So that is where the editorial assessment comes in. The editor send the article to the author for revision with recommendations, and the author's rework article. The revised article is checked by the editor. It's accepted for publication, produced and published. Okay, copyright is something that most of us have only a vague idea about. Under traditional subscription-based publishing, journals insist on a copyright transfer agreement. Under open access, it is mandatory for authors to retain copyright. See, large and prestigious publishers will insist on copyright transfer agreement as part of their long-term digital asset management strategy and to protect their and their authors' rights. And in most open access, copyright, traditional copyright regime is invoked. And there is also something called Creative Commons, where the copyright belongs to society, but acknowledgement is made that the article is belongs to the author, and any change or any modification has to be done with the permission of the author. But the person receiving the free copyright should pass it on exactly as received. They should not further act as gatekeepers. That is Creative Commons. Creative Commons has 4 or 5 varieties of or layers of copyright protection or copyright access or freedom. Now, there are also digital challenges to copyright. So one of this could be the archiving by libraries, where sometimes access is not easy. What also happens is publishers introduce digital rights management systems where, again, access becomes very difficult for individual copies, and also where licenses expire, and so the digital copy of the article is no more available to the researcher. See, this is from the user's point of view. From the publisher's point of view, they are really scared that they will not be able to protect primarily that of the author's moral rights. So if I were to write an article, and if it gets forwarded or transmitted down the line, and somebody else takes the article and publishes it as theirs, and also makes changes which is very derogatory, I have no control over it. And that is the biggest fear, where, let's forget money, even the integrity of your article is no more valid. That is the biggest fear in publishing today. Where copyright is 100-year-old. It's evolved over 100 years, whereas digital copyrights is less than 20 years, and still nobody is sure who can hack, who can do what. And forget the commercial aspect, the integrity of your article, that it belongs to you, the writing is yours, that itself is not safeguarded with digital publishing. Okay. So the plagiarism aspect, I'll talk about plagiarism. Many of us, especially in India, have to include co-authors who have not contributed to the article at all. And that is a big problem, because international journals do not accept articles like that, and if they come to know that, they consider it a serious offense, where co-authors, sometimes some articles include 7 people as co-authors, some include 4, some include 3, but unless the authors have actually contributed to the article, what is generally said or what is put on record is that please do not add any name for the sake of adding. We all know that misrepresentation of data is a huge crime. Now, coming to plagiarism per se. So, Plagiarism is representation of another's language, thoughts, ideas, and expressions as one's own original work. It violates academic integrity. We have known cases of vice chancellors being removed from their posts because of it's considered a serious academic ethical offense. There is also a kind of plagiarism which is called self-plagiarism, where you recycle your own article 4 or 5 times, and that is considered recycling fraud. So generally about 10 or 15 types of plagiarism is there. I just want to touch upon 3, which is more than enough. And so one is the verbatim copy. So we take material from wherever, whichever source, whether it's printed or online, and we cut copy it, and that is verbatim copying. That's a serious offense. But we also seem to think that paraphrasing, reusing text structure, this is allowed. This also is not allowed. You can, the general advice to authors is that you can read and imbibe ideas from anywhere in the world, from any source, but all the writing should be in your own. There is no copyright in an idea. There is copyright in the expression. So if the expression can be yours, and where you acknowledge source, and you list in the inside citation that, you know, I've been influenced by this idea, then it is safe. Appropriating ideas. So could be an article or a piece of information or content that you have read, and if you were to place it as your own without referring, without acknowledgement, that is, it's called a misappropriation or appropriating ideas. So these are the 3 types of plagiarism. And today there are a number of software and tools available to check. I would suggest that each of us check whatever we have written through tools or plagiarism softwares like Turnitin, Authenticate, Writer, Unicheck. These are some of the, we use Authenticate at our office, but I would, while answering questions, maybe answer more on plagiarism. The general rule is to use your own language, to write in your own language. You can read from any source, but write in your own language. Take a lot of, place a lot of importance on understanding how inside citation works. That will save us a lot of trouble. Okay, moving on. Now I'm going to talk about article preparation and submission guidelines. So go to this, please do visit this website, thinkcheckandsubmit.org. Many of us write articles and send it to journals which we know for sure that they're not going to accept it. So the choice of journals is very important. It has to relate to your field of study. You have better chance of success if you submit an article which is closest to your field of study. Read author submission guidelines of the chosen journal. Don't extend page limits. Don't add anything which is not part of the guidelines. Because as I told you, a lot of articles look at whether the article follows their style, whether it follows their structure, whether it follows all the rules and the method and the structure of the article. Likewise, to retain attention, to get attention, to gain attention, the choice of your title, the keywords that you, especially in the computer world, keywords are very important. Almost all tagging, all SEO operations are based on keywords and tags. So an abstract are must for the digital world. So your choice of title, the sort of keywords that you will add, and the abstract that you write are must for the digital world. It's important to check the scope of your journal. Does it cover your area of research? Relevance of the article to the journal for choosing the journal. Today, even in your university probably asks these questions. Even in your doctoral seminar, while you in the process of when you submit your articles or when you submit your thesis, I was asked this, and the question is, what is the relevance of the article to the journal in which you have published it? So, since my topic was multidisciplinary, and there were not too many journals in the area, I had to choose a journal which was not exactly which belonged to my area of study. So you may have to justify why you chose a particular journal. Also find out if the journal has a peer review process, the year of establishment, readership profile of the journal, its relevance to your and one very important thing today is it a Scopus Edx journal or does it come under the UGC CARE list? Does your journal come under this? Because today they outright rejecting. If you ask me, is this a fair system in a country as populous as India? Do we have enough journals to accommodate all our researchers? My answer is no. Do we have an alternate method in place? My answer to that also is no. Are the Europeans biased against Indians? Yes, they are biased against Indians because they would like more of their own. See, the publishers are European, the journal, the editors are, all the editors, all the chief editors of the very leading journals are all Europeans. But you'll be surprised to know that China has a system where their research output is the highest in the world today. So I think we need to, evolve a system in India where our output is also recognized the way the Chinese have adopted. We'll come to that a little later because my last slide is on that. Content preparation. See, it's like the basic rule of it's like going back to alphabets. Most of us do not get published because the writing is not clear, it's not in good English. The second point is it should be a plagiarism-free content. So write in your own words. Any information available on the internet is not public domain material. So only open source and public domain material is allowed to be used. The rest of it, you are running the risk of your article getting rejected or being labeled for fraud if you use material where you're not sure of the source. Paraphrasing will also lead to trouble. See, today software is able to detect that you substituted these words. So paraphrasing is also not acceptable. Remember that desk reject or rejection at the editor's desk happens 70% of the time. So if we can improve, for us to improve our chances of getting published, I think the most crucial thing is, getting the fundamentals right. So if you can present content clearly, if we can follow the structure and write in clear English, I think if the content is plagiarism free, we have a chance of at least getting a look in. So even before peer review, 70% of the journals are 70% of the articles are rejected. So I think we need to be a lot more careful on this aspect. Follow all journal guidelines. As I said, the size, the length, the sequence, formatting style, methods of presenting figures and tables, use of in-text citation and references. So when I was all along talking about structure and method, this is the most important. Your in-text citation, please follow the style guide that I think in computer science, most people follow the APA, also the IEEE and Association of Computer Machinery. They have the AIM Association of Computer, ACM journal style. The other major style manuals are the MLA, Chicago Manual of Style. CBE is biology editors, so that won't be applicable. Vancouver and Harvard. Vancouver and Harvard are more for social science and business. MLA is for English. APA is Psychology Association, but their style guide is very much in vogue in the computing environment. So also is IEEE and Association of Computer Machinery. They are supposed to be the largest network of computing professionals. Follow uniform style of reference citation. Peer review focuses on appropriateness of research, methods, validity of claims in the paper, and academic merit. So these are the things that a peer reviewer is looking at. So is your research appropriate? What is your claim and how valid it is, and how meritorious your research article is. These are some of the ground rules. Ensure that you submit your article to one publisher at a time. The submitting author is responsible for getting permission and approval from all co-authors. Only authors who have contributed should be included. All institutional approvals should be got prior to publication by the submitting author. Declare funding sources if any. Declare conflict of interest. Avoid coercive citation, fabricated data, libellous content. So these are some of the ground rules for us to get published. So I'm now talking about attention to detail on some of the important aspects of the article. The title should be catchy. It should be less than 12 words. It should convey the full meaning of the article, and it should attract the primary audience. It should pertain to the research. So what is the purpose of an abstract? An abstract is not read by your research colleague. It's read by editors and peer reviewers and some readers to know what to expect from your article. So if you write your abstract well, you're getting a foot in the door. Methods. Here, our article has to establish credibility of research and highlight open availability of data and results. So it has to have, it should establish credibility of research and have data which is open. It's open to different interpretations at different points in time. The methods used should foster reproducibility and replicability. I mean, I think this is one thing that every doctoral committee, they ask you if your results, if they are tested in a different environment, will they produce the same result or will there be a variance? Can your methods be adopted in a different environment? If you are doing it in Coimbatore, can this be done in Pune, for instance? So the appropriateness of the methods used, they should be reproducible and replicable. So these are some of the things. Apart from this, the statistics, it should be appropriate. It should be rigorously reported, error-free, and free of manipulation. As I say about statistics, lies, big lies, and statistics. So essentially, our statistics should be appropriate and should be free of manipulation. Literature review. It's important to have the latest literature, well-run, well-organized around objectives, or bringing forth discussions on the research. I've already mentioned about citations, both in text and references. Should be clear and without errors. It should follow the style guide. It should be consistent. And if you use different framework for references, that is going to lead to rework on your part. The theoretical framework should be well organized, be consistent with the research objectives, and have discussion points. So this is as far as attention to detail. I'm sure these are all well known to all of us, but it's like, going back to basics and is as important for any performer. So if your basics are strong, I think we'll all be able to move forward. And this is my last slide. I'm talking about the global scholarly publishing market. So there's a lot of revenue generated in the global scholarly market. It's expected to grow to 28 billion in 2023. US retains the largest portion of the global market. China leads as the world's prolific producer of publishable research output. Russia, India, Spain, Italy, Brazil, and Australia have strong growth rates. Digital dominates the global market as a segment accounting for 89% of the global scholarly publishing market. Open access publishing is growing at almost 15% every year and is poised for growth. So this is based on the STM report published from the US.
So shall we ask people to have few clarification issues?
Yeah.
So I have a very simple question.
Yeah.
Now, every one of us knows about the COVID impact on not only our country, the entire world.
Right.
This COVID period is the first of its kind and years of experience in our lives.
Right.
Almost all business have moved on to a downtrodden phase, irrespective of the finance specialty.
Okay.
And the returns taken, the ROI taken not only by the business, even by any employee of any concern, had a tough time.
Right.
In such case, those 2 years of toughest time for everybody, the publication cost for any journal, any researcher who had been in the midst of researching and completing their any degree for that matter, the publication cost was unjustifiably right. And it is skyrocketing every year. Now has been justified a lame research. Now will this come down, or what are the justifying part in raising this publication cost this high?
Yeah. You mentioned only about COVID. Actually, as far as the publishing industry is concerned, and if it is based on, I would say, paper-based printing or use of paper, most of the pulp is got from Ukraine, and Ukraine is at war with Russia. So the cost of paper has increased by 40%. Now, we usually every year we get an order to supply braille paper to a client of ours, and we normally give it at cost. This time, our at cost is 40% more than what it was last time. So, I think we have to expect that for prices not only for the intellectual pursuit, but in every aspect of life for the next 2 years, it's going to be very high, and it's going to settle only after that. So it's not only COVID; it's the world as we see today, which has come out of COVID, is going to see increased prices. So I don't think there is any easy way out, because if you see, the publishers are at the mercy of elements. So the elements are that raw paper cost is high. Now, if you look at digital, frankly speaking, we've all heard of Byju's, but Byju's is losing money every day. They're not making money. So none of the online, the people who have invested heavily in online are actually making money. So as we go along, they will try to stem the rot. I'm not saying any X or Y company. Everybody would try to stem the rot by take, for instance, did the management in any college reduce the fees because of COVID? This year, I don't think they've done that. So my general observation is that for the next 2 years, prices are going to keep rising, and it's not this time. It is not the greed of the manufacturer. I hope my answer satisfied you, or
No, you have told us the reality.
yeah, absolutely. I know most times businessmen are accused of being greedy, but this time they are compelled to do it. See, people do not have money in their hands, but the school fees or college fees is only increased. Likewise, for almost anything and everything. So even in our day-to-day consuming thing, I think the prices have gone up. It's not as if they've gone down. They've gone up, and I'm saying this is beyond the control of a lot of it. I'm not saying everything. A lot of it is beyond the control of the powers that be.
And related to plagiarism, I have a very simple question. Let's say, for example, you take a concept for that matter, be it a cloud computing concept or say distributed computing.
Right.
Now, what exactly is distributed computing? That understandability every one of us would have.
Right.
As you said, we will have to write the content in my own words.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's say a group of 5 members doing research in the same area of domain.
Right.
So I might define distributed computing in my own words. Probably
Right.
the other person X or Y might also be defining and explaining distributed computing in their own words. But
Right.
ultimately, if you look at the literal meaning of the concept, it is all the same.
Yeah.
So is it like, if at all I take their research paper, I read what distributed computing they have defined as, I will use my own words and reframe the content. Is that taken as plagiarism?
Yes and no. See, if you have verbatim copied from a particular source, because that thing seems to be the most appropriate to what you think, that will constitute plagiarism. It will the plagiarism software will highlight that your portion is being taken from elsewhere. So I would say the way to avoid it is, to write in your own words and understand the concept. The better aspect is if it's only a definition, if the expert or whoever is the first person to have defined it, or if there's an association which has defined cloud computing, you give that definition, put it in quotes. So which means then you won't have any trouble. See, because later I'm saying there is a classical concept. See, I mentioned earlier also that there is no copyright in an idea. So the minute you say something which is your idea and it comes out, it's published, it becomes everybody's idea. The issue is not with the copyright violation, or the plagiarism issue is not with the concept. It's with how you have expressed it and how you have verbatim taken it from some other source. So basically, you have to rewrite it, even if, see, this is the difference. Let me also explain. If you are taking the material for research and say you have taken it from a particular place, that is not plagiarism, as long as you have in-text references, but you can't take it verbatim. So when you use material to teach, you can take one whole chapter from 10 books, 10 different books, one paragraph from each book, or one concept from each book, and present it to your students. No, you will not be under any violation. But the same material, if you try and publish it as a lecture note or a student book, then it will be plagiarized because you've taken it from 10 sources. So you are allowed to see what is a fair use in copyright. Fair use is if you use it for teaching,